This is the Ryck 280. Now, we first saw this boat at the 2021 Cannes Boat Show, and it had tremendous appeal right from the start. And it also looked fairly familiar. We've seen boats like this, fast outboard powered weekenders with that beautiful reverse bow from the likes of Saxdor, from Axopar, from Exo, from Nimbus. But unlike those Nordic brands, this particular boat is German built. It's the third powerboat brand of the Hanse Group, built in northern Germany. Now, the two other motorboat brands in the Hanse Group stable are Fjord and Sea Line. And interestingly, like the Sea Line, this uses the design input of Bill Dixon. Now, he did some tremendous things with the configurations, the deck layouts and the space management on those revamped Sea Lines. So we've been looking for a chance to test this boat ever since its launch back in 2021. And now, thanks to the guys at TBS Boats in Southampton, we have that chance today. Now, linchpin of the ethos for this new Ryck boat is the fact that it's custom friendly. So basically, in its most basic form, minus engine, minus VAT, minus everything, it can be yours for about £64,000. But the test boat we have here, because it's the first one available in the UK, is pretty high spec. You can see that all over this boat, not least in the 4.6 litre V8 Mercury 300, also in things like the shore power over there and the transom shower here, the finish of the deck furniture and so on. But in all cases, when you step on board, what you first notice about this is the beam. It's tremendously beamy. It has a beam of 2.81 metres, and it feels even bigger than that on the inside. I mean, the internal beam itself is about 2.6 metres. Now, behind that aft bench, that beam is really beautifully used. We've got two enormous swim platforms, beautifully integrated, and it's very easy to make your way past the outboard engine from one side to the other. We also have this lovely, easy maintenance artificial decking. Feels great underfoot, soft to the touch. And that taps into Ryck's penchant for modernity, which is a stated aim, a stated centrepiece of their ethos. They want their boats to feel and to look modern, and it really does that. We also have the optional telescopic ladder for water sports on the starboard side. There's also an option for a water ski arch, and on this particular model, though you can have engines from 250 to 350, we've got the beautiful big block 4.6 litre V8 300 horsepower from Mercury. In the cockpit, the standard configuration involves this aft L-shaped seating and dining area. Now, the backrest of this folds back over those swim platforms, and that's very useful because unlike a lot of its competitors, this is not a reversible backrest, so you can't just sit there and watch boarders aft. So this is quite a useful device in that the fold flat sun pad simply enables you to fold aft even though you don't have that additional backrest in position. It's quite a versatile unit in other ways too. We've got storage compartments under both cushions. We also have storage compartment under here, unless of course you spec it with a slide out Dometic fridge, which they've done here, which takes up some of that storage space. And it's a similar story for the spaces beneath the deck. On this boat, because it's high spec, these storage spaces, which can be lined with dedicated buckets to contain and compartmentalise all your various day gear, and they're full of the various mechanical upgrades that the owners spec'd. So under here, in place of a storage space, we have a diesel tank and a diesel heater. Over here to port, beneath this deck section, again, instead of the storage space, we have batteries and a hot water tank. But to be honest, these shortcomings as they appear at the aft end of this boat in terms of storage capacity are not critical, because this is a weekender. So if you're not using that cuddy cabin for sleeping, it's the best storage space in the world. Further forward in the central part of the cockpit, this walk-around configuration opens up plenty of space for a really well-sized wet bar, either with a gas grill or a 2-burner hob plus a sink. And actually, having criticised the storage slightly in the aft sections, you also get some useful bits of storage built into both sides of the base for the helm seats. And one other thing to note in this part of the boat is how high these freeboards are. I mean, we're talking about 75 centimetres right up towards the top of your thigh. Now that's great for any boater, particularly good for novices, but for those with young kids, family boaters, it's really valuable asset. Now, having talked about how deep and safe this boat feels, when you come up the 2 steps onto the bow, that's preserved because the freeboards lift in tandem with quite an elevated guardrail that keeps it way up around your thigh. You can lever against this, and these big robust bars from the optional T-top are great for making your way forward. When you're up on this bow, the walkways, again, walk around configuration here, very practical, very grippy, decently wide. You've got a 2-man sun lounger built into the forward mouldings of the console with drained cup holders, a nice little backrest, and a nice little section of cushion that elevates, enabling you to access a hatch to get your stored gear down into the cabin below. Now, one of the principal benefits of that really beautiful, elegant reverse bow is to elongate the waterline length and thereby increase the running efficiency of the boat. It also happens to look absolutely fantastic, but of course when you're anchoring it causes you a potential issue. So as on some of its competitor models, this boat uses an extended anchor arm that takes the anchor out beyond the forwardmost point of that fiberglass moulding. It does still look as though it's going to drop and clatter into it, but don't worry, it's perfectly angled so that doesn't happen. And of course you've got an electric windlass on this particular model that enables you to operate the anchor remotely from the helm. Now, the generosity of that walk-around deck up at the bow obviously does have an impact on the shape and size and layout of the accommodation down below. And these are the walkways, so we basically have a little elevated bit where the sunbeds go further forward. There's a decent seating area here, so you can change without smacking your elbows on bulkheads. There's also options to upgrade this for weekending, like a built-in microwave here at the sideboard to port. But what's particularly interesting about this boat is how hard it works to generate every single square inch of space. I mean, we're based right down at the very bottom of the boat. You see the sides of the hull angling in, and when you open up storage spaces like this, you basically see the stringers for the hull right there alongside various bits of cabling. So again, storage is not perfect. And the same further forward where you've got the battery and then the bow thruster. But having said all that, it's a very impressive little cuddy cabin. True, I mean, the windows look out onto those raised freeboards, so you can't actually see a view, but you do get very decent light. And there's a hatch in the forward part to increase light there too. And also, Ryck's been very intelligent in its choice of these woods. Like many of the other features around the boat, they feel very fresh and modern, and the fact that they're so pale helps bounce what available light there is around and really maximise that sense of openness. There's also a self-contained head compartment to starboard. Now, you can have, as I say, this boat in all kinds of configurations with or without the various bits of equipment that make up things like this king-size bed, but whether you're cruising, weekending or day boating, a separate heads with a proper toilet and sink remains a very, very valuable feature. Now, you have to forgive me for using my notebook, but as I say, easy customization is right at the heart of this new Bill Dixon design. And to help people choose a package that suits their lifestyle and their application, there are 6 standard packages provided by Ryck. There's the speed and performance package, whereby you add a 350 horsepower Mercury Verado to the transom, and you basically strip away the T-top, the cabin fittings and the wet bar just to ease back the weight, make it super fast, super agile. Then there's the cruise and swim package, where you add to those twin swim platforms with the bathing ladder, a deck shower, a fusion sound system, the T-top and the all singing, all dancing glass bridge at the helm. Then there's the trips and weekends package. That's what we have on this particular test boat here in Southampton, where you have the awnings fore and aft to shade your seating areas. You have a fridge, subsurface lights, an AV system and a king-size bed. And then there's surf and fun with a towing point for wakeboarders and water skiers, as well as the platforms, the ladders, the deck shower and the fore and aft awnings. Then there's fish and barbecue with a bait well, storage boxes, rod holders, electric windlass and a fish finder, plus a barbecue so you can cook what you catch. And finally, and rather perversely, there's dive and climb. Not really a package I understand, but it comes with the T-top and the glass bridge, the barbecue, the fridge and the swim ladder. And if none of those 6 packages quite hit the mark for you, then online there's a brilliantly kind of intuitive configurator that enables you to plug in and cherry pick the options you particularly want to suit the way you go boating, and it makes it just very, very simple to engineer a Ryck 280 that exactly matches what it is you're trying to do. So out on the water now, the weather's turned a little bit. Thankfully we've got this T-top, but fool that I am, I asked Chris to remove the canvases that would otherwise have protected us so we can make the pictures look extra sexy, and hopefully they do, but we'll get a bit wet. In terms of position though, I'm very, very happy with the helm here. We've got obviously the T-top over the top to kind of cocoon us, and this is kind of a cosseting moulding itself around the console, because you've got a walk around configuration. On a lot of these types of boat you're kind of concerned that maybe one of your kids will knock a throttle on the way past, but there's absolutely no chance of that here with the throttle mounting nestling inside this bit of moulding to the starboard side. The seats are good. We've got bolsters, both for the co-pilot and here for me. We've got a foot brace down below so you can really lever yourself against that part of the seat. The wheel is adjustable up and down, which is handy. The throttle's in a pretty good position. The only thing I'd like to see here would be an adjustable seat on runners so that you can slide it forward a little bit, because when you're in the sitting position, for me personally with my body shape, I'm 6 foot, I'd be craning forward a little to reach the throttle while still getting support from my back. So that's what I'd like to see. But aside from that, it's particularly lovely, in fact, because we've got a hot air vent from the optional diesel heater down by my feet. So that's rather lovely. In the long run, Chris from TBS Boats is looking to engineer an extra bit of canvas that comes right the way around the back of the T-top, so we can actually cocoon ourselves off properly, and that will turn it into a much more kind of usable 4-season boat for the likes of us who go boating in the Solent on a regular basis. But in any case, it's time, I think, to get her up on the plane and see how she does. And on the transom here, on the test boat, we've got Mercury Verado 300 horsepower outboard. And that's a 4.6 litre block V8. You can go for the 250, or you can up it to the 350. But really, this naturally aspirated engine is pretty much perfect for this boat. It's a little bit more refined, a little bit lighter, 3,000 or 4,000 pounds cheaper, and it still gets them up on the plane within 5 or 6 seconds, passing 20 knots, and she feels very, very relaxed and comfortable at that. We've already had a little drive, so we know we can push her up to about 40 knots, a little bit shy of that, and that's very easy and relaxed. The tracking, the directional tracking is excellent. We don't yet have trim tabs on this boat at the moment. They're still coming, so we're heeling a little to port, but it really screams out at you how novice friendly this boat is. You can set the trim, just a little bit of trim, set the pace, and it really could not be easier. What's particularly fun though is that when you do decide that it's time to throw her around a little bit, I appreciate, yes, it's a 28-foot boat, 2 metric tons, but she has the kind of posturing, the kind of attitude of a much smaller, more aggressive sports boat. So we'll go to starboard and you see how she heels right in and there's plenty of grip. Plenty of grip, very reassuring. And because the pivot point is pretty much directly underneath the helm, that adds to your feeling of security. And even if you trim her out a little more and leave a little of extra trim on when you're going into a fairly aggressive turn, there are no nasty surprises. You might get a little bit of slip from the prop, but she'll heel again, she'll settle down, and she'll run around on her rails, and it really is one of the easiest boats to drive you're ever going to encounter, however experienced or otherwise you might be. We'll get her up on the plane again and get ourselves going. Again, we're up on the plane, easing back down. Quite a nice flat plane, straight over the hump and easing back down within 6 or 7 seconds and already passing 20 knots. Again, a slight heel because we don't have those trim tabs fitted yet. But what we have here on the Ryck 280 is a twin-stepped hull. Quite often, a twin-stepped hull, they don't really respond that proactively to the trimming of the engine leg. And this is kind of similar in a way, but if you just give her a little bit of trim, you feel the hull just loosening up. You see the point of impact with the water easing back. You see the revs free themselves up. And even as we get past 30, 31 knots, we're still well below, what, 75 litres per hour. And with a 300 litre fuel tank as standard, that's going to give us a really, really good cruising range, whether you're day boating or weekending. We'll just push her on again. Give her a touch more trim and a bit more throttle. And as we ease up to the maximum, which is around about 5,960 RPM at the moment, speed's just exceeded 38 knots. The noise levels are very refined, quite civilised. And again, fuel flow around about 90 litres per hour. In all honesty, very few people are going to find themselves cruising at the maximum. But around about 25 to 30 knots, this boat is refined, it's quiet, it's relatively efficient, it's very comfortable, and it's tremendously confidence inspiring. So there we have it. I have to say the Ryck 280 has been well worth the wait, and it's introducing itself into a tremendously exciting and very competitive sector, the kind of fast outboard powered weekender market, but it does a tremendous number of really good things very well. For a start, it's indisputably beautiful to look at. It's also fantastically custom friendly. Whatever kind of boating application you have in mind, you can match this platform to it. It's also great fun to drive, like a larger version of a small sports boat, and it's very secure for your family. They're already doing a tremendous amount with a single 28-foot platform, but if at some stage they could see fit to bring out an SUV style cabin equipped version for days in Britain like today, that would be pretty welcome.